You may or may not know that I just took a 3-week trip to Hawaii. Well, that trip has ended. I'm back home now, and I have photos to share with you guys. Couple quick things. First, you may notice there's cuts in this video. We had a nice run of one-takers, but we're chopping this one up. Why? Because I don't know what I'm doing with my channel. Come along. My wrist popped. Today we're going to whip through some photos from Hawaii. I went to 2 different islands while I was in Hawaii, one being the Big Island and one being Kauai. We're going to talk about Kauai today, and then the Big Island's going to come later. We have a lot of photos to whip through. My plan is to whip through them quickly, and it be a flowing experience for you guys. Let's begin. First, I want to share with you an evening where I took some photos of some surfers. While I was making my way out to the surfers, though, I captured a photo of some dogs in the back of a truck. They were coming by, and I thought, oh my gosh, 3 golden retrievers in a truck bed. This is a great, street photo. So I whipped my camera up. I'm really happy that I was ready. All the settings were in place. Worked out quite nicely. I like the motion blur. I like the fact that you can see the ocean in the background. And a nice group of 3. Then we made our way onto some volcanic rocks, of which there are an endless supply in Hawaii. I took a photo of my wife in a silhouetted form. This is that. You can see we had some lovely light this evening, which came in handy while taking photos of surfers. Also, when I edited these photos, I went for a teal and yellow type of look. And I wanted things to feel smooth and lively and pleasant. I wanted the photo to feel quite warm, but at the same time capture the deep blue of the Pacific. I wanted it to be so deep in blue that First of the surfer photos is this photo. I really like the way the light is hitting him. I like the warm skin tones and how they're contrasted against the ocean. I really enjoy the implied sense of relationship between this person and the ocean that we have here. A lot of times a photo with someone looking away from the camera doesn't work so well, but in this case it worked out quite nicely. Then we have this photo of a group of 2 surfers, nice silhouette. We have a nice bit of separation between the 2 surfers. They're not overlapping each other in any way. Nice bit of space there, breathing room, if you will. And then the surfers, their body positioning overall is quite nice as well. I also like how they're centered in the frame. And then the final of our launching photos, until later, get ready. We have a group of 3. I like how I captured him in midair. This was most likely part of a burst, but I love how I got the board levitating just above the water. We have an implied sense of direction that they're going out to surf. I like the story being told here and in all of these photos. Then I captured various surfing photos. I really like how this one turned out, for example. But these photos were part of a lot of non-keeper photos, and this is something that happens to me whenever I take photos of action sports individuals, because I don't do that as often as I take photos of other things, people moving very quickly. And when you have action sports situations, there are a small number of positions that will work, and then a lot of positions that won't work. Other surfing shots from that evening include this one, and this one. One of the things was I was shooting with my 50mm. I had my 70-200 back at the place, which was not far away. I could have walked back over there if I wanted to. That certainly would have been an option. But one benefit of the 50 is it put me in a box, and it's always good to put yourself in a creative box when you're out shooting. A lot of times you'll get photos that you won't get if you don't put yourself in that creative box. Also, I didn't want to just get tight shots of surfers, as stunning as those can be, and there are plenty of people that do that wonderfully. I wanted some of the environment to be in there as well. I was attempting to try to get the shoreline and some of the features of the shoreline in the shot as well, but it didn't really work out because they were catching waves too far out. Either way, I was still able to get a lot more environment in the shot because I was shooting with a 50mm focal length. So sometimes you'll be pulled in the direction of capturing a specific type of photo and think, oh, if I had this lens, I could do this, right? And maybe it's a wide angle in other types of situations. Sometimes it's good to do that. Sometimes it's good to just stick with what you have and intentionally put yourself in a box, because you might end up taking photos that other people wouldn't take in that situation because you've constricted yourself, restricted, restricted. And this is a fisherman that we ran into at the end of that evening. He was a very interesting fellow. One of the things he kept doing as we were talking with him, we got into a really interesting conversation with him. He would repeat himself. So he would have certain phrases, and he would repeat those phrases over and over. He was really good at emphasis. He would say things like, he thanked God for his catch, money is the root of evil, rich white people are a problem, and that he would give the parts of the fish that he did not eat to the eels so that there would be no waste. This guy was a native Hawaiian, and we got into different conversations with different native and local Hawaiians. They were always very educational conversations. You will expand your mind if you talk to people who have lived in a place for a very long time. But as we were speaking, I just started taking some photos. It was a rather natural flow, and he didn't seem to mind at all. And I captured a few different shots. And I was focused on his positioning and seeing his face, as that can add some strength to the photo. I tried to keep context points in the frame, like the fish, his bowl, and his net, which made an appearance on the left side of my shots. But good heavens, the light in these photos combined with the tones I was able to install upon these photos makes me very happy. It's smooth and delicious. And then we have the final shots of the evening, and in fact, a few of my favorite shots from my entire Hawaii trip, and that is these. We have this person standing, about to launch, and then we have the person launching. And one of the things I learned about launching surfers, which was fascinating to me, is that they launch at a very specific time. So they'll stand on the rock, and I've watched documentaries where they're going to talk about rocks and waves in a way that makes one avoid ever standing on a rock while a wave is nearby. They're going to say things like, always be weary of Mother Nature and ocean's fury. These newlyweds were in for a rude awakening. And yes, absolutely, respect the ocean and know when to not stand on rocks by waves. For sure. But if you're smart, you can stand on a rock beside the ocean and not immediately die. But when surfers are jumping in, I learned that they'll wait for the wave to come in, hit the rock, and then jump out as the backwash is going back to push them out. Wow. But I love how these photos turned out. The light, the silhouette, the environment, the amount of environment that's in the shot, the fact that the person is in the shot, but they're a part of the environment and they don't fill up the entire frame. They're actually a rather small part of the frame. I love it when I can make shots like that work. And there's still a clear enough focus on the subject. I love the positioning. I love how the surfer is floating in midair once again, and also how they're aligned vertically with the sun. And in terms of post-processing, I made the shadows a little bit green to spice up the feel. And these next couple of photos were taken at a place called Spouting Horn. And this is a place where the water comes in to a cave underneath, I presume. This is the only way I could think this would work. And shoots up like a geyser. Exciting stuff. And when you get a really good set of waves, just perfect timing, you get a really nice geyser. But the landscape in this area was fantastic, and I could have spent hours there just watching the waves come in and hit the rocks and shoot up. Here's another example of locals hanging out on rocks, and this guy made me a bit nervous, but he was a fisherman, and I got this shot of him standing there, ocean in the background. Got this shot close. Well, hold on, I don't want to get out of order here. Similar shot splashing, another similar shot splashing, and then I have this tight photo of him kind of wincing as the wave comes in. So he didn't fall off. And then another evening, I was going on a photo drive, and I came across this scene. We have a beautiful large mountain in the background with a nice green scene in the foreground, and there was a girl and a younger girl riding bicycles coming down the road, and I thought, let me add those in, because that's whenever there's people around, they're going to become a part of my photo. I really love how this photo turned out. I focused past the girls onto the mountain to emphasize the environment and tell the story that these people are part of this environment. It's not just a photo of girls riding down the road on bicycles. I've been really enjoying playing around with these types of shots lately, where I focus past the subject onto something in the background, and I think it worked out here. I did a lot of brush work on the mountain to tone down the highlights and make it more defined and ominous. Nearby, there was a town, and in the middle of that town, there was a light. hanging from some wires. And I took this photo of that light, and I really like the geometry here. I think it worked out quite nicely. Once again, another silhouette. James Silhouette Red. And then I came across an overturned car in a cow field. As one does. Don't worry, there was nobody inside. I don't know the history of this car, but it was there, so I decided I would take a photo of it. And when I first drove by, I saw a cow grazing right next to the car in a very photogenic manner. I was going to create this sort of composition, but when I came back, the cow had already moved, so the photo's not really that exciting this way, so I had to rethink my shot. There was a single cow, and this cow had gloriously separated his or her, I don't know how you tell the gender of a cow, unless they have horns. I don't really know how that works. This cow had separated themselves from the pack, and because, you know, separation's good for a photo. So I took this photo, and once again, I'm making some interesting focusing decisions here, because in this case, I actually want it to feel like we're looking at a casual cow in a casual cow field, and there just happens to be an upside down car. I then turned the other way and grabbed a landscape shot of a hill with a house in the foreground and a mountain in the background. Then another day we drove to the North Shore, and I'm gonna whip through these really quickly. Took a photo of a lighthouse, took a wide shot of the bay that the lighthouse is in. Me and my wife visited a beach. It was, it was a pretty leisurely experience, really. Got this nice, looks like a living space, honestly. Great tiny home for one of those tiny home channels, so they should do a tour of that. Living big in a tiny home, jump on it. Great channel, by the way. Took a photo of some waves, took a photo of my wife laying down, yawning, wide shot, and then another photo of her with her cool glasses, looking all cool. Then we visited a canyon. I'm pretty sure it was called Waimea Canyon, but it's also known as the Grand Canyon of the Pacific. Now here's a couple of shots from up in the canyon. Lovely waterfall, beautiful scene. I grabbed a couple of shots with some foreground bits to create some depth, and then took a photo with the waterfall and the fence in front of it. Nice little grid situation. Earlier in the day, we were at a lower part of the canyon, which I actually found that to be more exciting. It was a really pretty scene. Now this may be because I lived in Utah for a while and I've seen a lot of canyons, and so it didn't blow my face off that much. But look at this. I mean, this is wonderful. Took this shot wide, took another shot tighter, and then I incorporated my wife into the scene. Once again, wide shot, tighter shot, and you can just see how it affects the resulting photo, the different focal lengths. I would love to plop a house right there. Be a lovely backyard. But that's it for my Kauai photos. But very quickly, from a gear perspective, I took a lot of photos with my iPhone, but I was trying to memory capture, which is something that I decided I wanted to do on this trip. I actually don't do that as much as I would like. In the past, I've focused on taking very, thoughtful photos, but I thought, man, let me just capture, let me take a picture of an egg that I cooked in the morning. But for these photos, I shot with a Sony A7S Mark III, and then a Sony A7 Mark III for a couple of them, I believe, and 50mm f1.8 Sony, a 70-200mm f4 Sony, and then a 16-35mm f4 Sony. Me and my wife have been recovering from the trip since we got back. We lost a lot of sleep on the tail end, and traveling can take a toll on the body in general, but we had a red eye back, and so we've been recovering. Lots of good sleep on our nice bed helps, but take care of your body. But more to come. I'm going to be sharing some photos from the Big Island. I actually went on a couple of proper street photo walks while I was there, and I'm excited to share that with you guys. But please feel free to share your thoughts on these photos today. I would love to discuss with you. You can find me at James the Red on Instagram, on Twitter. Like and subscribe if you enjoy what I'm up to here. I would really appreciate that. I love you guys. Have a great day.